Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. And John is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at GCN. If you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. Hey, Rick, I understand that you're going to Kansas City, Missouri on October 1st and 2nd, Saturday and Sunday.
Good morning, Vincent. Yes, I am, and I absolutely need more volume. I am encountering serious inhibition here on my phones. And
okay, we'll turn that up. How about now? Is that a little better?
And by the way, just for the record, I don't know, nothing is going on solar-wise, yet my bandwidth here recently is such I've had to cancel really important radio, like with Solaris, Blue Raven, and others that I really, really care about. And I have no control over this. Even my telephones are acting weird. It's all on the same line with CenturyLink, but, you know, it's like it's party line or something.
Yeah, we're falling down, Rick. I got a call this morning from Australia. Gwyneth Isaacs called, and she said that they had some rain there, about 5 inches of rain in a very short period. Flooding, over 100,000 people were impacted in Australia, and ATM machines were down, telephone lines were down, power was down. Power is not expected to be returned for about 6 days in some locations. So, you know, we talk about these things, and I don't know if people believe that they can happen, but here it is, and it happens not just here in the United States, but it happens all over the world. So Gwyneth is okay. And, you know, she needed to get from one place to another, and she had some silver coins with her. And, you know, she didn't have cash, but she had some silver, and she used her silver to get from one place to another, and it was accepted. So that worked kind of great for her. Not everybody understands what it is, but enough people understood what she had to get her on a bus to get her where she needed to go. So that worked out kind of well. But Rick, so you're going to be in Kansas City, and I'm looking at the schedule of events. We're talking about October 1st and 2nd. And you're going to be there talking about, according to the schedule, global mind control, the first four worlds of defense. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then Matt Stein's going to talk about.
Me to tell you what those are? You mean like
please do.
And turning us into females, and let's see, what else are they doing? Oh yes, turning us into little laptops with. Listen, this whole thing. If you step back and look at what literally is happening, it's actually very, very creepy and in your face. There it is, right there, right now. The foods listen, I went to the ocean this weekend, and 1 out of every 4 people I saw anywhere in little towns like Bandon or wherever, everybody is obese. And I'm not talking about overweight. I'm not talking about, chunky like I'm a little overweight. No, I'm talking about obese and have gone beyond anything I've ever seen before. 1 out of every 4.
How do you think that would have worked, in the 700s with the Vikings? How do you think that would have worked if they were obese? They would not have been able to conquer and plunder as much as they did, right? They wouldn't have been able to row. And so something is really wrong with what we're eating and the chemicals in the water and
in the
the
water,
chemicals that
in the
we're
air,
breathing.
in all of our elements
Everything.
that we take for granted. We are being attacked on all levels.
I'm going to be talking tomorrow with Dr. Millie Hinkle. She called me yesterday, and she used a term that was new to me, and it's called EMI. And I've heard of electromagnetic radiation, electromagnetic frequencies, but she came up with, and I've heard of electromagnetic interference. Interference. This is electromagnetic illness.
Oh, yes. That's because there's a very good medical study by Dr. Beal, B-E-A-L. He's out of Florida. You can find him easily on the internet. His work in dosimetry of different parts of the body that respond to different bandwidths of electromagnetic radiation is a monumental work. And we have radiation awareness in our body on a variety of everything from infrared on down to the ultraviolet and beyond. And when you start talking about microwave, there are specific organs that respond directly to tight bandwidths, 0.3 to 3 gigahertz as opposed to 5 megahertz, as opposed to, we have different bandwidths in our body that a whole spectrum of electromagnetics, of which have dosimetry. That dosimetry means LD50 ratio. That means this 50% of the people who are exposed to this radiation are going to die. That's what LD50 ratio means. When you have an LD50 ratio number, and we have that across the board in all different bandwidths of electromagnetic radiation, and is one of the reasons why cell phones are toxic.
Yeah, and it reminds me, and I've said this on the air, but I guess it bears repeating. Many years ago, when we were in Virginia, we had a computer manufacturing company, Personal Computers, and these computers, we put them in metal cases or metal chassis, completely, all the electronics were completely surrounded by metal, which is not the case today. A lot of computers are in plastic cases with some metal shielding on the inside, but not completely shielded. And when the computers were 25 megahertz, that's 25 megahertz, this is in the early 90s, I would be able to put on our service bench as many as 8 computers at a time, and I'd take the covers off, and I'd load software and, replace hardware and so forth while I was servicing these computers. And I could work on 8 at a time. And they went from 25 megahertz to 33 megahertz to 40 to 50 to 100 to 333 megahertz, 500, 800. Well, when they started getting around 800 megahertz, I had problems concentrating. And the way I would service these computers is I would take the covers off them, and the covers would expose the motherboard, the processor, the memory, and some venting in the power supply. Well, as we got closer to 800 megahertz, and on up to a gigahertz, which is 1,000 megahertz, I started having trouble concentrating. And I'd have to write down, okay, what did I do on this computer? And computer number 1 on the bench, and computer number 2 right next to it, and computer number 3 next to that. So I had to write myself notes as to what step I was on each computer, because I was beginning to forget. And then when we got up to a gigahertz, I was not only beginning to forget, I was forgetful. And so I experimented with it, and I put the covers back on. And I found out when I had the covers on, screwed on properly the way that we would ship them, I was fine. But I was not fine with the covers off. And when we manufactured these computers, we sent them off to a electromagnetic radiation and interference testing lab and had them certified in California that they met the standards for electromagnetic radiation, and we used metal cases to keep them at their absolute minimum. So what I'm saying is, Rick, there's no question in my mind that electromagnetic radiation is serious. It can confuse people, and I'm here to tell you that I saw it firsthand up close. No question about it in my mind. No question.
Well, that's why we have skin blockers and things of that nature, because these are radiations and frequency bands that you can't sense, but your organs can. And look what happens when you go out in the sun, and the sun appears to be the same, yet you seemingly get a different kind of a sunburn, because the radiation pattern is different. And it's that way with your microwave oven, your electric clock next to the bed. Everything is radiating at some bandwidth. And there are, depending on the strength of the signal, can do damage to the body, literally, just like bright light can blow your eyes out or change the skin tone, because of the melatonin, whatever. It's we don't realize that, because we don't see it and we don't feel it immediately, that there's damage being done. And cell phones are at the very top of that list, and are one of the reasons why we're having trouble with bumblebees and the death of certain kinds of animals because of it. Did you know that the Earth is now ringing like a bell electromagnetically, that the actual radiation electromagnetic fields hit a perfect sine wave yesterday? Never in history has that been recorded before, and has absolutely significance to our behavior. I have no idea how it's going to affect it. There is no question that it will. And I don't know what it all means.
So, Rick, you're talking about there's a resonant frequency that the Earth has hit?
Electromagnetically, that hit a perfect sine wave yesterday. Never, just like perfect. Usually you have a lot of white noise. So you got a lot of different frequencies all jumbled in there so that it normalizes out as a kind of white noise kind of thing. But for a brief moment yesterday, everything hit a perfect tuning fork, and it hummed. And when that happens and you hit resonance, I can tell you that it will amplify. That is in the body called biological amplification. And that's where you get a radiation signal from something, and it increases it in the body in its response and causes serious damage.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Doc Ram's with us, docram.com, if you'd like to peruse the website and purchase some of his books. docram.com is a great way to start. Rick, I'm looking at a post on the internet. 53% of species have seen a decline from 2002 to 2013. And it says that there's little evidence to suggest that the rate of decline is slowing down. And we're talking about birds. We're talking about butterflies. We're talking about plants, frogs, small creatures the size of mice. And what they're saying is that, let me get to this. It says, this is dailymail.co.uk, a loss of mixed farms, changes in sowing patterns, meaning seeding, and a switch from hay to silage in pastures, increased use of pesticides and fertilizers, and a loss of habitat like hedgerows and ponds have also taken their toll, causing the decline in life on Earth. What do you think?
Well, it's happening as we speak. And how bad was it before we turned our technologies up another and ramped them up? I don't know. I can tell you that everything in Oregon is drier than I've ever remembered it, and that all the Ponderosa is showing stress in every part of the state. Now, are we at a world record? Well, we had a heat wave. It wasn't as hot as last year, yet July and August and September are now going down as the hottest months ever recorded in Oregon. Even though we didn't have the 12 weeks of triple digits, we're still getting the heat on. Why? What's going on with our sun, and why is the weather changing the way it is? And nobody seems to be concerned about that. And yet, things like Popo going off last week, and right now, that's 15 million people. If that mountain blows, 15 million people will die immediately in Mexico. I've been there to visit it. I was there in 2014, and it is now blowing its heck. And there are a number of other volcanoes on the ring of fire are also now exhibiting evidence that they're about to actually have a major eruption. You know, I don't know what it all means. I've been told by friends from JPL that we have right now a 3-degree orbit change in the orbit of Earth. It has literally changed. And there is a pole shift, a literal physical pole shift in the North Pole that has moved another 21 degrees off its axis. And I don't know.
21 degrees. That's huge. That's huge. Rick.
Yeah. That's the Inuit are saying that the SAR maps that they have legendary for centuries, it's all different now. How about you? Where is your North Star where it was compared? Check it out and do your own memory of what you remember looking at where Cassiopeia was in the belt of Orion, and where are they now?
You know, Rick, I was outside.
There's things happening here that are not being discussed and should be. And I don't understand who's... A few days ago, I moved one of our trailers, and I try to keep our equipment out of the sun, believe it or not, because the sun's rays are destroying our tires. They're causing them to crack and age prematurely. So I moved one of our trailers, and I was out with the backhoe yesterday with our son, and he said, "Hey, Dad, good thing you moved that trailer." Well, what happened was a huge limb. I'm talking about, hundreds of pounds, just fell off a tree and landed where the trailer was. And what we're doing now is we are picking up limbs that are falling off trees at a rate that we have never done before. Trees are falling over dead. There's more than enough firewood. Before we used to have to look for some. Now there's too much. And these are trees that used to be alive that have died, and they're losing their limbs. And how long have we been on this farm? 10 years, 11 years. 11 years on the same farm. And so we know the farm. We know what it does. And this is a new phenomenon. Trees are dying at a record rate. And it's not because they're thirsty. There's plenty of water. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us. Rick, so I mentioned that trees are dying at what I consider a record rate around our neck of the woods here in Missouri. And as I think about this, they've got water. It's rained. So the only things that could happen would be temperature, chemicals in the air, sun, too much, lack of sun. What else could it be? Electromagnetic radiation? There's something affecting our sun. And that's the only thing that affects the earth literally is our sun, and something is affecting our sun. And that's the best I can give you in physics. It isn't, asteroids. It isn't da-da-da-da-da. It's something is affecting our sun, and there's only one thing I can think of, just like when I said 9/11 and the vaporizing of a 600-foot beam, and the only thing that could do that is a plasma. Well, the only thing that can affect our sun is another sun. And it has already been stated that we are a binary, and that some of the binary out past the Oort cloud, their planets are now playing billiard balls with our solar system out by Uranus. Read it and wait. There it is. And I don't know or have enough data, because I don't have a good enough telescope, and I'm at the whim of what gets published on the internet. And what I try to do is vet what seems most likely and credible, and I'm having trouble. So I don't know what it all means.
Okay. Well, so you're seeing the same things, right? That I'm seeing.
Yeah, no question. And I've noted that some of the better speakers, people that are actually reaching people and making a difference in their lives, are being discredited. Zen Gardner comes to mind. I just got a note from him just a few minutes ago. I noticed how they tried to do that with people like me. Thank the Lord, I have people out there that supported and encouraged me to not worry about it. Yet, here we are at the end of days with no real information, and the fear factor is a major part of it, with nobody really knowing what's going on, including me.
Rick, I've talked to some people who've been on the air with us that have some insight into these kinds of things, trends, forecasts, and so forth. And
how come right now, by the way, and I have another thing I want to say, this is important, Vince, I didn't mean to interrupt, but Michael Stovall out of Texas is saying that GNC will not come on the air in Texas. Why?
GCN, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not hearing us at this very moment. He just sent me emails to say so. Send it to you also.
I get a number of calls here at the farmhouse when we're on the air telling us that the listen lines are down when I mention Hillary's name, or when one of our instructors mentions Hillary's name, we seem to go off the air. There's no question in my mind that something is going on to prevent the message from getting out. And here's the other thing that I wanted to share with you that ties directly to that. I've talked to a number of our instructors, and I said, would you like to come on the air and discuss these things that we have noticed? And the answer is, yeah, I can't do it now. Give me about a week. And I call back in a week, and I can't do it. And the tone has changed. I haven't changed. I'm still saying the same things I've said. It's not me. It's not the rest of our instructors. The only conclusion that I can come to is there's something that has happened in their personal lives that put them on the edge, or on edge, and they're quick on the trigger, short-fused, and they don't want to come on the air. So the only conclusion I can draw from that is someone has gotten to some of these guys.
Well, here's one from Osho. Osho, the philosopher, he said, the less people know, the more stubbornly they know it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can certainly agree with that. I've seen evidence of that in my travels pretty much wherever I go. So, Rick, on your seminar, which is in Kansas City, October 1 and 2, Kansas City, Missouri, at the KCI Expo Center, I'll be there as well. You're going to be talking about the first...
It will be a pleasure, by the way, to spend time with you again. I totally enjoy our physical time together. I hope people like Aaron Dakin and others can come to just be there and be supportive, because I miss our family.
Yeah. Yeah, I will give her a call and see if we can get her out there.
I don't mean just Aaron. I mean everybody, you know. I know Ed Marvini won't make it up from Florida probably, but I have to tell you, it makes my heart glad when I see people like them, because I realize that no matter what else happens, friendships are the highest form of love there is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matt Stein's going to be with us.
Well, because here's the deal. I don't know who anybody is anymore. I'm watching a series called Quantico, and the convolution of inner workings just in the FBI, of suspecting each other of all kinds of things, and who's the terrorist. You know, Colonel Mustard did it with the candlestick in the library. You know, you'll never know. And as far as who's gotten to whom in terms of payoffs, there's absolutely no question. When I see people at Carnegie Mellon, scientists, saying that chemtrails, those things up there that are lasting in the air for more than 2 hours, are nothing but contrail, water vapor, whoa, paid them to say that, because there's no way, even as a non-scientist, you could buy that. And yet the public, there's your mind control.
Well,
Common Core, the foods we're eating, you are being attacked and assaulted across the board.
You say Quantico, there's the series called Scandal, same thing. Madam Secretary, same thing. House of Cards, same thing. And there's so many excellent series now available. You can watch them on Netflix. They're excellent. There's too much salacious sex in it. It's not necessary. But it shows the scandals. It shows the lies, the deception, the me first attitudes that people in power and aspiring to have more power, it shows their attitudes and how devious and how evil they are for their own personal gain. They are willing to kill, murder, destroy lives, plant misinformation, plant lies about people to destroy their character. It's horrible. And in that light, there's a story. I'd like to share this with you. Katie Couric is being sued. This is news. Katie Couric is being sued for $12 million, and the website is bearingarms.com. Katie Couric sued for $12 million for defamation in anti-gun documentary. So she and her director, Stephanie Sotig, I think that's how you pronounce the name, edited their anti-gun documentary Under the Gun in order to make a gun rights group in Virginia look as if they couldn't answer a simple question. And now they're facing a $12 million defamation lawsuit. So here's what happened. The Second Amendment rights advocacy organization, Virginia Citizens Defense League, along with a couple of its members, filed this suit against Katie Couric and her director and the Studio 3 Partners LLC and for false and defamatory footage featured in this 2016 documentary film called Under the Gun. And the film portrays a fictional exchange in which members of the Virginia Citizens Defense League appear silent, stumped, avoiding eye contact for nearly 9 seconds after Katie Couric asks a question about background checks. An unedited audio recording of the interview reveals that, contrary to the portrayal in the film, the Virginia Citizens Defense League members had immediately begun responding to Katie Couric's question. Now, so what I'm saying is, according to this post, it appears that the film has been modified to spin in a worse position the Virginia Citizens Defense League, their members. And I can tell you that one of our instructors, I introduced one of our instructors to National Geographic's Doomsday Preppers casting director, and actually two of them. And they were both on Doomsday Preppers. And they are not really in-your-face gun-toting guys. They just aren't. However, in the video, they showed these two guys from the Missouri area. Their setup, their preparedness setup, and then they showed this wall with guns on the wall, a lot of guns. That shot was not from either of these two guys, nor their homes, nor the guns that they have. It has nothing to do with these guys. But they added this image of these guns as if these guys are from a Mexican cartel with a wall of guns. That's kind of the image that was portrayed. What I'm saying is there's deception in the media. Deception in the media. And Katie Couric is right there in the forefront leading this disinformation, misinformation, and Goebbels type media campaign. So we can't trust the media. That's the problem. And that's what I was trying to do with our meetup group before I decided that I couldn't do it anymore with them. That my plan was to teach them how to think and how to ferret out the news and the truth from all of this disinformation. Because you can't believe what you see. Just because it's on the screen doesn't mean it's true. Rick, any quick comments?
I'm speechless. You're absolutely correct. And I know that there is a high likelihood none of us will really ever truly know the truth of it.
Okay.
Just like history.
Yeah.
Written by the victors.
Yep. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and I'll be right back. Doc Ram's with us. Rick, the head of the FBI on Wednesday said that putting and I'm paraphrasing, putting a piece of tape over his personal laptop's webcam was a common sense thing that most of us should do. Okay, I don't have a camera on my notebook computer. I don't, and mine's an old one, and it's running an old operating system. And he says that you go into any government office, and we all have these little. This is his quote. Quote, you go into any government office and we all have these little camera things that sit on top of the screen. They all have a little lid that closes down on them. You do that so people who don't have authority don't look at you. I think it's a good thing, end quote. So he's saying that privacy, your privacy can be hacked on your camera, on your computer, and of course on your phone. And I recommend putting a piece of black tape, electrical tape, over the camera, front and back on your phone if you have a smartphone. Absolutely. I don't have one, and the reason I don't have one is because I don't want to be tracked. And by the way, and photographed and listened to and spied on and followed around. And I've been able to travel all over. I've gone probably, I don't know, over 10,000 miles in our vehicles without a cell phone. So since I dumped my iPhone, I've been able to go everywhere I want to go. And I feel quite comfortable. Now, I do carry a gun with me. And I, for my own personal safety, but I don't need to call the cops. If I have a vehicle problem, I'll call somebody in the family, and they may be 500 miles away, but I'll still call them, and they'll show up either with a tow dolly or in another truck or a trailer or a vehicle or whatever. But we take care of our own here, and I think many of us can dump our cell phones. I really think we can. So just my thoughts on that. Rick, males are becoming less masculine, and we probably ought to talk about this into the next hour as well. And I'm seeing more and more signs that men, biologically, have less ability to make decisions. Well, let me think about it. I don't know. I'm not so sure. Well, let's ask her. Let's see what she has to say. And she makes all the decisions, or she's the boss in the family. And what has happened to men? And I was watching this series on the Vikings on Netflix, and I'll tell you what, those guys are men as portrayed in Vikings, and they make decisions. As a matter of fact, if you disagree with them, they just might cut your head off, or kill you right then and there with an axe or a hatchet or a spear or an arrow. But they certainly made decisions, and they were real men. I'm not saying we need to kill people. I am saying that we need to be more masculine, lead by example, make decisions, and get off the couch. What do you think?
Well, what do you mean we, white man?
I don't mean. Okay, I'll tell you.
Like
I'll tell you
milk.
I'll tell you what happened. I said something like that to Miles on. I'm trying to be polite. That's really what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I don't. And Miles came down to me very politely, and he said, "It's kind of the same thing." What do you mean, we? Not you, not me, but them. They're
it's
them.
an identity crisis, and getting to know yourself and what is and is not important. And there is nothing wrong with an effeminate part of a masculine person, because that's how you connect with a woman. And so androgyny has many faces. Bisexuality is not androgyny.
All right. So, Rick, do you think it's the air, or the water, or the electromagnetic radiation?
All of the above.
Yes.
And the soy milk and all the rest of the foods we're eating. Yes, it's all of it. And now
Rick,
it's that gender-bending restroom thing.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Some guy follows Mrs. Finelli into the ladies' room, and my son's there. That guy's going to be bludgeoned. I know it's going to happen. I know it will. We come back, Rick, let's talk about smarter children through eating, the space launch, the climate change, household toxic dust, just to name a few when we come back. Dr. Richard Alan Miller on Vin Finelli. This is USA Prepares. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Doc Ram's with us, Dr. Richard Alan Miller. Rick, I was reading a post on the internet about smarter children, and it says that if you focus on their food early in life, a healthy diet improves children's reading, writing, and comprehension skills. And they found that the children with less sugar in their diet and bad fat in their diet did a better job with reading, writing, and comprehension skills than those who ate more junk food. And you felt that, I'm sure, for many, many, many decades. And Dr. Shealy agrees. And Dr. Shealy will say that sugar is poison. Rick, what do we do to eat a better, healthy diet? Do we have to grow our own? Can we trust food from the supermarket, or not really?
Well, that's the argument why you want to grow your own, because you don't know. And when you buy from something that you saw where it came out of the ground, I'm buying strawberries at Safeway that are mutations. It's no longer a strawberry that I understand, and some of them will never rot. How does that work? So the strawberry just keeps going on and on and on. It stays red. It dries out. It starts to become dried, but it doesn't rot or break down. How does that work? Well, they're using sprays to keep things like they would burst something with kerosene, tomatoes, so that they're green, but by putting kerosene on them and hitting them briefly with a flame causes them to turn red. And then they stay red longer because they're not really red, they're green, and they never actually mature into the salts and nutrition that a red, ripe tomato represents. But they look red, and so they must be okay. It's crazy. Well, and here's the other thing that they'll do with fruit. They'll big pacture fruit, get it cheap. What they'll do is they'll sell you the fruit and then put in the center of it 3 pieces of fruit that are 3 weeks older, so that it causes the inner fruit to rot faster, and you lose some of the fruit that you have to throw away because you didn't remove the more ripe fruit quickest. It is a game in marketing. And, to Ford Motor Company and moving to Mexico. And how did they put it? Trump put it, and I'm not for Trump. He said it used to be that automobiles were made in America and you couldn't drink the water in Mexico. Now, automobiles are made in Mexico and you can't drink the water in America. There's a good turnaround for us to realize that even on a local level, our government officials lie. There's nothing wrong with lying per se. All of us lie or exaggerate or bend the truth or have a different perspective because of our values and would choose to see something as truth when it isn't really. All of us do that. And the highest form of love is when you can look at your mate, know that she's telling a fib, and love her anyway. Now, I have drawn some lines here, and basically know that new people that come into my life, I'm going to have to, no matter how much I like them, how much I feel that they're very sincere, I now feel that I have to be on guard until I've known them a minimum of 10 years. Because that's how you get to know who someone really is in core issues. They cycle every 7 years going from up to down, and you've seen them at their worst and at their best, and you know them. Mike Mandeville, that was here the other day and you interviewed with him, I've known him since 1970. And Michael has not changed, and he has, but the core part of Michael is still Michael. And he's not on payroll, and I don't have any fear of opening my home to him. Yet somebody knew that I let into my home. I have no idea whether or not they're going to plant bugs and mics and other kinds of things. I need to sweep my home. I think I've got bugs all over my home from being naive and trusting. And when I talk to people like you and realize that we're being messed with on a very personal level, with phones cutting out, not being able to do a radio with Solaris, and there's nothing wrong with it, and CenturyLink will say, well, we were experiencing technical difficulties at that moment. I'm certain there's something more going on here. Now, I'm a sweet old man, and I love almost everything. I mean, I'm happy, and I see the positive in things, and yet I'm becoming a grumpy old man.
Rick, we used to open our farmhouse to lots of people, and there were times that we've had, the entire meetup group. I've invited them over for the holidays, and I don't do that anymore.
You can't do it. You don't know anymore. Everything has been infiltrated, especially things that are militant, like the National Guard, the Oath Keepers, things of that nature. We will probably never really know what happened in Burns, other than they're still trying those people, not on what they believe, but what they did. Well, yes and no. Civil disobedience has many, many faces. And who was the one that brought violence into it? That's what's wrong with our government.
Yeah. Rick, you're talking about Ford Motor Company. This morning before the broadcast, I was talking with Mrs. Finelli about what Ford is doing. They are shutting down production of their small vehicles in the United States and moving that production to Mexico. And it really, I've never seen my wife react to a news article quite like this. And we have a blue Ford tractor in our barn. And yesterday we spent the entire day rearranging the barn so that all the equipment will fit and we can bring it in and out easily and efficiently. And she said this morning, to the effect, we're going to be able to make more room in the barn because we're going to sell that Ford tractor. She's so angry and annoyed and disillusioned with Ford Motor Company that she doesn't want a Ford tractor in our barn.
You don't
and it's a
let her ever forget that button that you have with the Ford Motor Company with a swastika on it. Had nothing to do with America. Mm-hmm. Detroit or Flint or, Rolling and Combine. The whole thing's nuts.
And we blame it. We blame it on Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, the Bush clan, and the Obama clan for starters, and our Congress, our senators, our alleged representatives, because they have sold us all out. And you would think that those lying parasites, those politicians, would have enough common sense to say, wait a minute, Ford Motor Company, outsourcing, moving. You know, we need those factories, because if we ever have to defend ourselves, we won't have the machinists.
That is what is the American dream that has been lost. And to have the American dream, one must first be asleep. And I have to tell you that we are, as a country, lost our way. Black sheep. There we are.
We truly have, and it's really disgraceful. And I look at some of the Americans, and even some of the people at the former meetup that we used to have, and they would talk about it, but you know, we can read about it on the keyboard, but actually getting to do it, it's hard. That's hard work to get people to do what they need to do, to be prepared. And being prepared is having what you need before you need it. And that includes skills. That includes knowledge, skills, tools, supplies, spare parts, and the right location. And opening your refrigerator and looking in there and saying, there's nothing to eat, that is someone who's not prepared. That's the most basic example.
In my universe, I try to buy as much as I can from local. Even though I spend a little more, I'm actually choosing to eat less. So it's about the same, because I need to lose weight. And I don't trust anything from anybody anymore unless I've seen it, like you next door growing my tomato for me. Have you seen the tomatoes in Safeway? What they look like they're made from a cloning machine. They're all
same size,
perfect.
same shape. You're talking about they're virtually identical, right?
Yeah,
size
and
shape,
there's
color.
5 of them on the vine. In other words, you'll buy them where you have to buy 5 of them because they're in a little string of 5s, that all look the same, and each 5 look exactly like it was made with a replicator. It's crazy.
And our beef comes from about 13 different countries, and it's stamped USDA inspected, and it probably is to some degree U.S. Department of Agriculture inspected, but it may not be United States grown and raised beef.
No, and it's probably got mad cow just for flavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts.
Rick, farmers are going out of business around us. They're not buying anything.
That will be the death of America. It was our green belt. It was our independence and national product. Our gross national product. Yeah. There was pride. If you bought something from America, it was usually always the best buy there was. For a dollar spent, you got more for bang for your buck. That's gone.
When we come back, I'm going to share some of our thoughts about what we're going to do to survive on our farm here regarding our cows. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. I'm Vin Finelli. This is USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. So, Rick, on our farm, we're thinking about, how we're going to survive with these low cattle prices. Let me tell you what the cattle prices are at the market. Small heifers, okay, girl cows that haven't had calves. 400 to 450 pound cows. I'm sorry, feeder heifers, 400 to 450 pounds in weight, $1.26 to $1.39 a pound. That's unacceptable. And we can't survive. We can't raise a cow for $1.26 to $1.39 a pound, or a calf. We can't do it. It's impossible. And if you look at the equipment, you look at the just the labor, the taxes, the fencing, all the attention that the cows and calves need to get them through the winter. I did a quick calculation. This winter, we are going to be we cut, baled, raked, tedded 340,000 pounds of hay. That 340,000 pounds. That is going to just about get us through the winter. We're going to feed about 3,000 pounds of hay a day. So before the broadcast, I'm going to be feeding probably 1,000 pounds. And right after the broadcast and the rest of the day, I'll be feeding, another 2,000 pounds of hay every single day, 7 days a week. So what we're going to have to do is look at selling the cows right here on the farm. So someone may be interested in buying a quarter of a cow or a half a cow, and then we'll arrange to have it processed, and then it can be picked up. So it won't be our cow. A person will be buying a live grass-fed cow or a portion of a live grass-fed cow and pay for processing and then pick up the processed cow. It's as simple as that, and I think that's what we're going to have to do. And it's probably going to cost a little bit more, not that I want to do it that way, but than what you get meat for at the supermarket. But what it would be is American-grown, grass-fed beef, the best you can get. But I don't know any other way of surviving it at the moment. And the prices are so bad, so low for us, that we've decided that we're not going to sell cows this year. We're not going to sell cows this year. We're going to take them through the winter. It's unheard of, taking cows through the winter. Most people, as it starts to get cold, most farmers will sell their cows because they just don't want the burden of keeping the cows through the winter. It's rough. It really is rough to feed them and get out there in the freezing cold and have your skin freeze and your hair freeze and so forth when you're out there on the tractor. So, but that's our plan, because we don't know of any other plan that might work.
Be aware that this winter, the likelihood is it's going to be a tough winter, and that you may have some loss because of the severity of it.
Yes, and we are increasing
that is
the
what's
minerals
predicted now, a severe winter.
Right, and not only that, but if those farmers follow the advice and counsel of the Soil and Water Conservation District, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and their government minions, they have done away with their woods, fenced the cows out of the woods and the ponds and the streams, and left them out there to freeze to death in the blistering winds and the freezing cold and the snow and the hail and the sleet.
One of the things that I strongly recommend now, if you're working with a well, that you do have a sling so that you can switch to from a hand pump to pull the water out of your well should the power go down and you not have your diesel. And a simple bicycle running where you pump it out with bicycle is a simple way to pump water out of the ground. And that's where you get your treadmill workout.
And it is a real workout, because 1 horsepower is 746 watts, and a 1 horsepower well pump takes about 3 times that much wattage to start up. It's tough. It really is. And in class, it's easier to store water than it is to store electricity. So if you're going to pump water and you do have a generator, what you need to think about is storing that water in a large container. And for less than $100, you can buy food-grade portable water totes, about 330 gallons each, and you can fill them with water and then water your animals with them. We have a bunch of those here at the farm. We'll be right back. Class, arcade gun shows this weekend, September 17th. And where? Lexington, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia, Denver, Colorado. So if you need to top off your ammunition or get that scope or get that rifle, pistol, shotgun, I suggest you consider it. And, we still have the gun show loophole in many places. And that means that you can buy a gun privately. So here, for example, here in Missouri, if I'm walking around a gun show and I see a guy or a gal walking around with a rifle that I'm interested in, and it looks like he's selling it or she's selling it, I can walk up to that person and say, "Wow, are you selling that?" And they'll probably say yes. I'm like, "Okay. May I look at it?" And they'll say, "Sure." They'll hand it to me. And if I like it, I could say, "Well, so what is your asking price for this? They might say, $500. And I'll say, wow, okay. Are you firm on that price? And they may say, I'll tell you what, I'll take $450. And I may say, okay, sounds good to me. And I may pay them the $450 right then and there. And now it's mine. Okay. And you can do the same thing. They don't like it when felons do that. But if you're a member, or if you live in the same state as the person selling it, and that person actually owns it that's selling it, generally it's good to go. And what I would do is, just for your own safety, I would say, now, is this legal for me to buy this? Okay? Because that way, if it's an entrapment, you can say, wait a minute, I asked him if it's legal and he lied to me. But generally speaking, you'll see some guys selling, or a whole bunch of guys selling guns that they either want to upgrade from, or that they have too much, or they need the cash or something like that. So that's how it's done. And it's called the gun show loophole. So you can go to a gun show and buy directly from the owner. Okay. If you live in the state and the person selling is in the same state. So keep that in mind. That's this weekend. You're looking at, September 17th and 18th, Lexington, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia, and Denver, Colorado. rkshows.com. Rick, you and I are going to be traveling. We're going to be going to Kansas City. And that's, you're going to be doing a couple days of seminars, October 1 and 2, Kansas City, Missouri, at the KCI Expo Center. Link on the website, USA Prepares. Rick, you're going to be talking about, global mind control, the first 4 worlds of defense. Matt Stein's going to be talking about when disaster strikes, what you need to know, do, and have on hand. And I'm going to be talking about how to protect yourself from the lies in the media. I might be talking about something else, like how to save a lot of money. And normally when I do that, I'll ask the seminar attendees which they'd like me to do. But when I do that one, I guarantee that they'll save at least $1,000 every year by just coming to that 1.5 hour seminar, if they do just some of the things that I recommend. And I say that if you don't save that money, ask for your money back at the ticket counter that you paid for. Now, of course, it's unauthorized. RK doesn't authorize me to do that, but no one has ever said I want my money back. It's never happened. So, Rick, we talked about many things, and one of the things I'd like to share is Max's Law. I've said this many times on the air. Max's Law, if you use this law when you buy things, you'll probably do pretty well, and that is buy the best, pay cash, and take delivery. Buy the best means best value. It doesn't mean you need a Rolls Royce or a Lamborghini. What it means is whatever it is you're buying in its class, if you get a good one, a good quality, whatever it is, and you pay cash, the transaction is done right then and there, and you take delivery, you take it home with you, that's the way to do it. Putting it on layaway doesn't mean it's yours, okay? And not taking delivery, that's crazy. Take delivery right then and there, because it may disappear, and it hasn't on me. And I've told that story before. I had a farm with some hay, and I was going to work with a farmer that was 26 miles from our farm. He had cut the hay before, and he got half of it. I said, I don't need that much. I'll take just 25% of it. You keep 75%. And I went back to pick up my hay, and he sold it during a drought. He sold my hay, and he spent the money, and there was nothing I could do. I mean, other than hurt the other guy. Other than that, there was nothing I could do. So if you buy the best, pay cash, and take delivery, which I didn't do that one time, I lost out. So don't let that happen to you. Rick, Monsanto. Want to talk about that?
Not really. You're talking about Bayer and the German connection taking over our agriculture?
Right.
Is that where we want to go with it? I mean, this is crazy.
Yep.
They have the largest private army in the world. And now they're going to move that all to Germany with a bunch of previously Nazi sympathizers, and they control our wheat, our grains, and it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm speechless. I'm speechless.
Well, my understanding is that they will have, when they're done, Monsanto/Bayer will have 25% of the world's supply of seeds and pesticides. That's a enormous
Yeah,
amount.
there you
And
go. And remember, Monsanto originally was a weapons company under old man DuPont, Dina Morris. And I remember when it was making Agent Orange, Paraquat, and 2,4-D. What exactly has Monsanto become today? A weapons company. Still a weapons company. And no matter which way you slice it, the way they're orienting their seed control, their GMOs, and their Roundup Ready plants is as a weapon of war.
Okay, Rick, here's when we talk about something that I don't think I've talked about before. There's Dow Chemical is in Michigan, and one of their plants is in Midland, Michigan. And Dow Chemical was instrumental, as I've learned, in building a hospital across town in Midland, Michigan. And I've talked with some of our instructors about this, and we all believe that the reason that they built this hospital was so they could keep quiet the disasters that they've unleashed, meaning the poisoning of the water, the air, and the chemicals that they make, so that when they find out that someone in their corporate environment has a problem, they get treated at the Midland, Michigan hospital. And that contains the information to that hospital so that the information doesn't get out as to what has happened. In Delaware, the home of DuPont and Morris, there is a children's hospital called the Alfred I Institute. It's a children's hospital. And I believe that they do the same thing there, where they treat children and for these abnormalities, birth defects and so forth, problems that have happened that are unusual, problems that could very likely have come from the toxic chemicals that are produced. And I did mention, I think once on the air, that when we had properties, I interviewed a young man, and I asked him where he worked. And he said he worked at a chemical company. And I asked him what he did there. And he said he worked at the incinerator. And I asked him what his hours were. And he said overnight. And I asked him why. And he said, well, that's because we burn at night those things that we can't burn during the day because they're toxic and dangerous and people will find out. So we burn them while they're sleeping.
Yeah.
And
it's going to be a fun day when there is a true Nuremberg accountability. And hangthebankers.com.
You know, I think, Rick, it's going to be a little less organized than the Nuremberg trials. I have a feeling it's going to be vigilante justice. I have a feeling that
that already exists. That's part of Klan and the Posse Comitatus and the Mormons and the Seventh-day Adventists and the Oath Keepers and all these different clubs that are now springing up with group feelings against the federal government is going to be what causes the United States to fragment down into probably as many as 9 provinces. That's going to happen shortly.
Yeah, and the trust in the media is at an all-time low. Very few of us believe in anything we see, read, or hear in the mainstream media. It's down, let's say, I believe it's 32%.
If I were a national media reporter, I would have some kind of pride like they did at the Washington Post to expose the corruptness around us. And if it meant losing my job at that paper, what am I really losing?
Right.
My self-respect and image of quality of life. And so this is a call for all of you out there to be more responsible in your decision making of why you're doing what you're doing. Exactly why you're doing what you're doing. And have it clear in your mind. And if it isn't clear, make it clear. Research it out. Figure it out for yourself. All of us are going to be slightly different. We have different values. But I think there's going to be an accountability of a bell ringing truth.
Rick, when we come back, I'll tell you something that I did that kind of links to what you're saying. Are you willing to work for a company when you disagree with the boss? And I can tell you that, I'll tell you what I did when we come back. Doc Ram's with us, DocRam.com. We'll be right back. Doc Ram's with us. So, Rick, several decades ago, I was working at this bank, and I was an officer of the bank, and I was in the technology arena, and I got a new boss. And one day, the new boss called me and he said, "Hey, I need to have a meeting with you and your team." And I said, "Okay." And this was probably around 6 o'clock at night. All of us worked late. And so we went into the meeting area, and he said, "Look, I need some charts and graphs for the president. I need to show him what these computers are doing and what you guys are doing. So I need charts and graphs tomorrow morning." And this was 6 o'clock at night. And I said, "Yeah, okay, well, we can do that. But, my son's in the hospital, and he's very young, and I need to go see him. And as soon as visiting hours are over, I'll be back, and you'll have your charts and graphs. And you'll have them in the morning, and you can present them to the president." And he said, "No, I need these charts and graphs." And I said, I understand that, and you'll have them. And he gave me a hard time. And I said, so I was in this meeting, and I was the lead technology guy. And I said, excuse me. I left the meeting. I walked over to my office, and I think something happened to my computer about that time. And that was the last they saw of me. I got a call the next morning about 10 o'clock, and another guy had called me and said, "Hey, are you coming in today?" And I said, "Are you sick?" And I said, No. Are you coming in? I said, "No, I don't think so." And I explained to him that I was not coming back. And so that's how I handled that. And you talk about a couple of guys with a typewriter taking down Richard Milhouse Nixon and doing the right thing. Yeah, we can. Now, there's a price you pay when you do that kind of stuff. It's really hard to get another position when you walk out like that. It's damaging to your career. And some people would call it a career.
Or not. Yeah. It isn't necessarily damaging to your career to make a statement about morals over ethics. Ethics is when, you know not to do something. Morals are when you don't do it.
Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to share that story. And then very quickly, Rick, SpaceX, the launch that blew up on the launch pad, Elon Musk's plans to eventually transport humans to Mars, using reusable equipment, kind of failed on the launch pad. And he was going to provide internet communications for Africa and the Middle East with this technology. And some people think that it might have been sabotage. So I just wanted to share that. I do. I think it was sabotage. I can't prove it. I'm not in the know.
I will send you, if you'd like, a post of a picture of my ticket to Mars. I have from NASA a one-way ticket to Mars, and you can get a ticket to Mars. I'll give you the website where you can sign up for it and everything.
Hey, Rick, let me ask you this: Are you serious? You want to go to Mars one way?
Why would I want to come home?
Well, I'm thinking, if anyone has claustrophobia, Mars is not the place to go.
It's got more water than Earth does.
Yeah,
And
but
it's got better water. It's structured. That's why it's on Mars. It most likely was Atlantis. I'll bet we'll find artifacts. Certainly, we're going to find, just like in The Martian, a different way of being that works, including how all the astronauts in that movie, The Martian, that is absolutely worth watch, where they rebel against their superiors because it is the distinction, like you, of revolt between ethics and morals.
have you seen the video, The Martian?
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. It's excellent. Very quickly, class, there's toxic dust in all of our homes. Phthalates are known to disrupt our hormones. They're linked to asthma, autism. They're found in everyday items, packaging, makeup. And these chemicals get released into the air. They become dust. They settle down. And that makes a good case for a central vacuum system that exits outside the house. I just want to share that with you. So, otherwise the canister vacuums and uprights are just dust relocation devices. Rick, thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure.
Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.